Money doesn't just come from one place. It drips, trickles, flows, and floods into our lives in different ways. Welcome to Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood, a podcast that explores the power of multiple income streams. We've got merch. That's right. Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood t-shirts are officially here, and they're as comfy as they are conversation starting. Grab yours at the link in our show notes. Hey, Tony. How you doing today?
Good. How are you, Melissa?
I'm pretty good. I have a busy writing day today outside of our podcasting, so it's nice to have a little break.
Cool. Yeah, I have an interview here in a little bit for an article that I'm writing, and
Nice.
then I'm going to be a guest on somebody else's podcast. So
Hmm.
that'll be fun. They stumbled upon my book, and
Cool.
the podcast is about storytellers, and I don't know. We'll see. I
Cool.
don't really know exactly what she's going to ask me.
That's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Today we have an interesting article, and we will link to it in our show notes. But the title of it is Women Will Soon Control More Money Than Ever. Is Wall Street Ready? Good stuff. And so the intention of the article is that women are poised to inherit this massive share of wealth. So it's about an estimated 47 trillion of the 124 trillion wealth transfer is expected to go to women. So that's going to reshape, or at least according to this article, reshape some of the financial influence that's happening out there. But the financial industry hasn't really kept up with this shift, and most advisors are still men. So we have an underrepresentation problem happening. So I think this is interesting for a number of reasons. One, we talked a little bit about this on when we had Cheryl Herson, financial planner. We talked about that idea of like women coming in and feeling comfortable enough when maybe they have felt excluded from certain conversations in the past. And I believe in Jessie Rosen's episode, she talked a little bit about her and her husband going to a financial advisor that was the firm that they go to and work with is specifically for couples who are childless by choice. So it was interesting that there is these firms cropping up that are very specific with the clients that they're targeting. So I think when I read this article initially, my thought was, is this going to shift to where there are going to be more firms cropping up that are women driven, women led, or all women? So what are your thoughts on this, Tony?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting niche when you talk about if it's targeted for people that don't have kids or whatever, or gearing more specifically towards women. But it's not even that. It's also just, I think, broadly, the industry is going to have to speak a little bit different, going to have to be a little more open to who's walking through the door, and make sure that when two people walk through the door, if it's a man and a woman, that maybe they make sure they're talking to the correct person. That can be a big turnoff if somebody makes the assumption that the male in the room or whoever in the room thinks that they're in charge and they have the money, when that's not the case. So I think that's interesting from an advisor standpoint and how that's going to be approached. And I think that, and in the article, it says young women are going to be inherit. And I think people interested in investing are also more likely to go into a financial advisor type position or get into finance or whatever. And so I wonder if there will be even more of a trend to see women going into those industries, because they're going to have money, they're interested in it, and now that they've been studying it, maybe they'll say, this is what I want to do. So we could see a shift in the industry, and then with the shift in the industry, both in who has the money and maybe who the advisors are, does that shift how money's invested? This article points out that men tend to be more aggressive, looking more towards growth. And so those are certainly a specific type of investment, where if women are holding a larger piece of the pie and are going to be looking at different investment goals or being more conservative, or maybe it's even investing in different industries because that's what they're interested in. And so
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see how this starts shaping the economy in addition to the industry.
Yeah, I think those are all really good points. The first one being that the article does point out that most certified financial planners are male. And what does that mean for recruitment of women? So, like, what companies are going to step up to the plate and start, or what, like, universities, for example, are going to start trying to recruit more girls out of high school into their financial programs. And so I think that there's going to have to be like a larger effort on both the side of education and on the side of companies who are recruiting more women into this space for sure. And then I think you bring up a good point about the type of investors that men tend to be, and maybe women will be different. I've read a lot on that in the past. But I also find like another angle of that, I shouldn't say but, and I also find another angle of that interesting where women are so often excluded from the conversation that I'm not even sure we know what type of investors we would be because we're often not even at the table. I was in discussion around women real estate investors at one point, helping a client who was running a commercial real estate investment group for women. And that was something that came up quite often is that, like, they were just never in the pods to be able to invest because those deals were happening in like male centered spaces. So then they were just completely not at the table, left out of the discussion. And so it's nobody even knew what their investment behavior would be because they weren't even in the room. So I think that will be very interesting as like number one, what happens or how are they going to get more women in the room, a seat at the table, and then not or encourage that, and then number 2, it's that will be interesting because I think at that point, we can actually judge what their investment behavior is going to be. Right now, it's just
Yeah,
small sampling, like, how
yeah, that may
beneficial.
be, yeah, and I think that that's probably very accurate, that just because traditionally that's been the case, when you get a larger sample size, that may not be the case. When you were talking, it made me think, and obviously this was all women, but when Rachel and Friends takes up smoking so that she can be a part of the discussion with her boss, 'cause she kept missing out on stuff.
Right,
So
it's like you have to join. No, that is a good point because any woman who's been through this will know, like, I've worked in a lot of male-dominated industries, and that is often a common way that you move your way up the ladder is by joining the boys club, but that should not need to be the case. We shouldn't need to join a boys club. We should just be a part of the conversation and a part of the fabric. And so I think what this is saying is that's got to happen because it is going to be women and the same kind of messages that are going out, right? So, how, for example, a financial firm markets their services. Right now, they're marketing mostly to men. So they're going to have to completely change their messaging, right, in order to attract women. Or what the article was saying is like women are going to be more just not interested. I don't need it to work with a certified financial advisor. I'll do my own thing because they don't feel like they're being heard or listened to or understood. So not only will there, I think, need to be an overhaul in obviously more representation within firms, but that doesn't mean no more men can be certified financial planners. Of course they can be, but it may just be a difference in how certain men in that role speak to their women clients, right? So that they can attract more or make them feel more included into the conversation. And then just as a whole, the company, how they're marketing. If they're wanting to attract women clients, what does that look like?
I think it's an interesting, as everybody talking about what's going to happen to jobs with AI and robotics and all these things.
Mhm.
This could be a great opportunity for people to enter this field, and maybe specifically women, just the world of finance, of that firms are going to be looking for it. And yes, it could be a financial advisor, but it also could be a personal banker. It could be these an accountant, these positions where people are going to want to talk to a human. That emotional connection is important, that emotional discussion about money, that the AI isn't going to solve all of that. Yeah, maybe it's
Mhm.
going to have big impacts on how funds are organized, and probably a million things I don't know about. But I still think that there are going to be there are pieces around money that people are going to want that human connection, that sounding board, that human that they know that they can go to. And they're going to want to be comfortable too. And so
Mhm.
saying, all right, if all these women are going to be getting all this money, maybe that's something, whether you're looking at changing jobs, whether AI is replacing your job, whether you're young and just getting into employment, this could be a great world to enter. That there's probably going to be, if there may be an increase in these positions, or there might just be a big shift. Excuse me, as the money is changing hands, the kids aren't necessarily going to use their parents' financial advisor, and so people are going to be out hunting, looking. I don't know that everybody's, yeah, just going to hop on an app and dump all that money in there. I think that'll be some of it, as we've discussed, having that team in place and putting yourself in a position to get a job as somebody's money team member, I think could be a wise decision.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And the article points out that women value being heard and having planning tied to life goals and values versus just the investment performance. And that human element is so important. And yes, AI is here and it's been here and it will continue to grow, but AI still needs a human to operate. So it's not completely replacing everything. And worked in the I had a big client in the tech industry for a while, and one thing that they used to say a lot is AI can be a great equalizer. However, when I would see that message, I'm like, yes, in some respects. However, it's not always equitable because we have to think about who's feeding the engine too. And so we can't expect that like AI is going to have equity and inclusivity, right? Like it's not built that way. The same problems we are experiencing in the financial industry now are just being picked up by AI, right? There's no like new consortium that's feeding it all this like equitable, inclusive access for women. Not at all, right? It's just being fed the information that already exists, which means that again, it's very like male dominated and male oriented. I think even if AI is coming faster and stronger, and it absolutely is, then yes, like it's exactly what Tony said. It's even more important that there is a human on the other end of that table. That even if you're using an app or some kind of AI, and everything's pretty much AI generated nowadays. I mean, you use Google, it's AI, everything's AI. But if you're using an app or some kind of spreadsheet, some kind of system or program that's managing things, there is that human person on the other end. And there just needs to be more women and certainly women of color in that role. So if, but if there is no one that's recruiting those folks to those positions, it creates a very interesting bottleneck.
Yeah, we just last week, as we were on winter break, took my daughter she's now old enough to get a checking account and a debit card at the bank where Ria works. And so we
Mm,
took her in there and sat her down. And in addition to she already knew Ria, but reinforcing that, and those of you, Ria was on episode, I don't know, really early on,
yeah.
but reinforcing that connection. But Ria, in addition to saying, this is how you can use your card, this is how you can make deposits, this and that, she talked about fraud potential and all these things that you can get an app, you can click accept, and you can move on and never think about any of those things. And having that human in the room talking about all those things, recommending that she pay attention to these things that she would never consider listening to her dad about. So that, I think there's just a ton of value in that.
Yeah.
And so that, I think that was a cool thing. So in addition to having more money to invest and having financial advisor, what do you how do you think that spending habits are going to change? And if there's this chunk of money going there, you can think about it, yes, this is how money is going to be invested in that, but what about Where are they spending? Should you be buying stocks in a certain area
Mhm.
because, those are going to get pumped up because of a certain way of spending or investing? Or are there businesses that you should be starting because women are going to be controlling more of a larger percentage of the money?
I think it can be a little bit of everything, right? I know myself and my friends who are women are interested in all of those areas. We want to buy and sell businesses, real estate investments, stocks, all of those, gold, silver, everything. We could just go through everything. We're interested in all of it. I'm not sure if there's one. I think I would say maybe the area that would pick up the quickest is the area that moves the fastest to be more inclusive. So if there is a big effort to get more women into commercial real estate investing, for example, I think that's where it will go. Just because if the seats are at the table and we're not constantly knocking on locked doors, then there you go. There's like ease of that. And the article points that out a bit too, where it's like we're looking for someone to have a conversation with, right? We're looking to be respected and heard. And so that's just simple human connection. And if that's not happening, then we're averse to it.
That's interesting. If I do the eyeball test now, I would say I see far more female real estate agents than I do female financial advisors. And so maybe that does mean that more money is going to get pumped into real estate as opposed to in the stock market, if that's the more comfortable avenue to go, just because of that human connection and the door, pun intended, that the door opens as you go that way, as opposed to walking into a financial advisor firm that maybe you're just not that comfortable in. I also think, maybe this is from my background more, but I feel like the real estate education process is less intimidating. It certainly was for me. It's probably more predictable.
Mhm.
And I guess the barrier of entry is not easier because you can buy as little of a stock as you want. But there is something about this house is down the street. I can see it, I can touch it. The person that might rent it from me, I might know, as opposed to saying, and maybe this is for larger chunks of money. If you're just going to dump a large chunk of money in the stock market, if you're not educated in it, then it is scary. You click send and it's gone. Where if you
Mhm.
buy a house, at least the house is there. And so if there's people in the industry to educate, and because people aren't getting it in schools, or at least not that much. I'm talking about like high school. There's some, but not a ton. And it might be that area where there is more support and more education and more inclusivity.
Yeah, I think that at least from folks that I know in real estate, there are definitely a lot of real estate agents who are women investors in real estate, specifically in the commercial sector, is still quite
Mhm.
low. It doesn't mean that can't. There are definitely some folks who are aiming to putting effort into changing that, which I think is really exciting. Absolutely. And I wonder if there is a little more excitement in that area too, because it's such a tangible thing, right? You can see what you buy
Yeah.
and I know that there again, it doesn't always have to be emotional in any way, but I think there is some cool thing of my friends that are I'm not a commercial real estate investor, but my friends who are women who are often really love their favorite projects are the ones where it's I bought a strip mall and there's these businesses in there that are all what run by women or it's like very cool things, right? Or they own like the building the school is in or just things that feel somewhat meaningful to them. I think that is quite cool. There's like another why behind the purchase. It's not just like numbers on the page. That's always number one, but then there's also, like, a why that carries behind that.
But I wonder if I mean, you talk about commercial real estate specific, I wonder if the use of commercial real estate is going to even start lending itself more towards women, because office space is not doing well, hasn't been
Yeah.
doing well, and probably not going to come roaring back. So that means these commercial spaces, both the new ones that are going to be built and the existing ones, are going to be used in different ways. And I think it is going to be more interactive type businesses, if I had to
Yeah.
guess, because that's why people are leaving the house now. It's to interact with the real world. Because otherwise, you don't have to. All your entertainment, you can get your groceries and food delivered. You really don't have to leave. So if you are leaving, it's not to go to the office. You can do all that from your desk at home. So it's a more interactive business. And so maybe as these commercial spaces are being re-envisioned and there's a new crop of young women with money, interesting to see what spaces are created.
Yeah, like the third home
Yeah,
concept, right?
yeah.
Creating that and those community. I think there is definitely an attraction to like building community, absolutely. In all genders for sure, but definitely women are oriented to that. So, yeah, that will be very interesting. It will be interesting to see. But I do see women investing in all sectors. But
Yeah.
I think that it will
All
definitely.
sectors all sectors are changing so quickly that the people with the money are gonna be the ones that directs how that changes. So it is the timing and the opportunity is gonna be you could see a lot of change. That'll be really interesting to watch, and I think as investors that are looking for income streams and that sort of thing and for floods, I think paying attention to these trends is gonna be
Mhm.
really smart.
Yes. Definitely, especially for people in this in the financial industry, if they want their firms to stick around,
Yeah.
they will definitely be paying attention to this. So, very interesting stuff. It will be exciting to see where it goes. I have a friend that is does commercial real estate and helps women do commercial real estate as well, investing. So maybe we'll have her on a future episode. That'll be
Yeah,
a
that'd be
cool
cool.
time.
I don't know this woman, but someone my dad knew, he was telling me about her, and she's an older woman, and all of her light industrial property, and he was talking to me about it, and this must have been, I don't know if it was about 10 years ago or something, and explaining what that world looked like, and she has an incredibly impressive portfolio, and I go, "Man, that's all real smart," and that's what led me I called up my realtor that day, and that led me down a big part of my investing path was the model she had created.
Cool.
Yeah, and that was all light industrial stuff. So pretty yeah, pretty neat.
Let's get her on.
I know I don't I'll find out if she's around. I don't even know if I'm being totally honest, I don't even know if she's alive, but I'll look into it. She'd probably be fascinating to come on because she's an under the radar from a real estate investor. Like I didn't know
Mhm.
her name as a real estate investor. I knew her name from how she made her money to invest. But yeah, pretty impressive what she did picking up all these different pieces.
Okay, we'll see if we'll get somebody on, and if
Yeah.
anybody if anyone's listening who is a woman investor in that space or a different space, we're always open to hearing from you and having guests on and love talking about this topic. But, well, interesting article. We will link this for all of you to take a peek at. We'd love to hear your feedback too. Like, where are you predicting? Where do you see all of this going? Where do you see the big sectors that are going to open up for women? And with that said, if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review on your favorite podcast platform. And we'll see you next time on Drip Trickle Flow Flood. Thanks, everybody.